Although they pitched at different times, my two guests, one retired and one active, have much in common, including being left-handers who effectively used power and guile to get batters out. And they also had to constantly prove they could still pitch at an advanced age in baseball. I welcome back Yankee broadcaster Jim Kaat and Al Leiter. How you doing, guys?
Fine, Timmy.
We are gathered here today to eliminate the slider forever
Beautiful.
in baseball.
Beautiful.
Wouldn't that be great, Kitty?
Yeah, I don't think Al will agree with me. But
No, I'm obviously kidding, but to me, this thing, we'll get right into this. The slider, and I've said it on the air, is the most dangerous pitch in baseball. I think it goes farther than any other pitch when a mistake's made with it. Just open it up to two guys that throw them.
Well, I would say I wouldn't be sitting here without a slider, but my slider, what I thought was a slider that was taught to me by Ron Guidry through Dave Righetti, evolved into what was a cut fastball that I just kept overthrowing it, and all of a sudden the catcher would say, boy, that's a cutter. And it might differ from what you're saying about a slider, but
yeah,
it makes a lot of sense because of the fact that it's closer to fastball velocity, and it doesn't have the big break that the overhand curveball guys that used to throw, that your danger zone is smaller, and the area in which, if you don't execute, can get hit as a result of the lack of depth on the breaking ball.
I go back to, of course, Timmy caught one of the great left-handers of all time, Steve Carlton, and playing with lefty and then being in St. Louis near the end of lefty's career, and hitters would come back and say, I can take that slider now, I can check. You remember you used to check with the first base umpire before a game and say, be alive, because lefty would get so many right-hand. Now all of a sudden guys they're spitting on it. And my own personal story, I was 44 years old. Whitey Herzog brings me in to face Claudell Washington. Joe Torre's managing the Braves. He counters with Bob Watson, who always gave me a lot of trouble, the bull, big right-hand hitter. I get him 2-2, and I said, I'm going to try to throw him my hardest slider outside corner and see what happens. Well, he swings and misses. I see him the next day around the batting cage. He comes over to me. He said, when did you come up with that changeup? I said, you know, that's the telltale sign. That was my heart. But the point being is, the older a pitcher gets, and if he's dependent on a slider, you lose, as you say, the tilt of the slider, and it becomes a mediocre fastball, where guys like Casey Fossumley against the Yankees doesn't throw hard, but he threw that big off-speed curveball, and they learn to add and subtract, and they're much more effective than the guys that throw the slider, because, like you said, it's such a dangerous pitch unless it's thrown in the perfect spot.
And before the show, Kitty was talking about how with the hump in the curveball, the guys who particularly pick their legs up, that's enough to throw off the timing, whereas the slider, for whatever reason, the release is not enough, and that's why those pitches are so damaging, I think, in the game today. And it's an easy pitch for a catcher to call with a runner on at third, because he gets away. He's calling for a breaking ball, but he's getting away from a breaking ball going down in the dirt. And I used to know a lot of catchers who would take the safety-first approach and call for the slider, because it's going to have a parallel break to the ground and nothing down here to where they have to block it and perhaps prevent a run.
Well, it's interesting we're talking about this, because it's apropos for me. As a result of age, I don't throw as hard. You know, I used to throw in the low to mid-90s. My cutter slider was 90-ish. I threw it harder. So now as everything slows down. So with the lack of velocity and the break being not as large, you're right, Kitty. They take it better. If you've noticed a few games that I've done well, I've thrown more of a bigger, slurvier, slower curveball. That the speed and the bigger break has helped.
You know, the other thing you've done in the game, and I watched the first game you pitched against the Red Sox on TV, and I remember you from back to your Toronto days, where the word was, Al's going to throw a cutter, cutter, cutter. To me, that was the best you used the outside part of the plate. And then you had, I think, another game against Kansas City where you really used. And another reason I point that out is because I think the slider is a more dangerous pitch now than it was when I pitched, because the hitters are stronger. They're using these 31-ounce bats. And the slider that used to get in there, ground ball, they get enough of it, and even when they shatter their bat, you know, they're much more apt to time a pitcher in and out versus a pitcher that adds and subtracts.
That's right.
Okay, let's stop there because we've talked about this a lot.
We're going to have to stop there anyway because we got a commercial, but we're going to come back on it, okay? I'll be back with Al Leiter and Jim Kaat right after this.
America's #1 brand. More Americans choose Chevy than any other brand. Meet the all-new 2007 Chevy Suburban with a rear-view camera system, power remote liftgate, head curtain side airbags in all 3 rows, and power release fold and tumble second row seats. Every big family is gonna want one. The all-new Chevy Suburban.
He used to try to dribble with special glasses.
And what I would do is I would put glasses on. They were plastic glasses, and they covered everything from half an eye down, so you couldn't see anything here. And I would put chairs up so I could see the chairs, but then I'd have to dribble the ball through the chairs and turn and dribble without seeing the ball.
Former U.S. Senator and New York Knick Bill Bradley joins me next week on Chevrolet's Tim McCarver Show.
This is a test of the emergency alert system.
It's summer for a day.
I'm in.
And brightening up this special day, Will and Grace star Megan Mullally. Next, all new Martha.
Today at 11 on K2.
Take care of 18 dreams at once.
I am back with Jim Kaat and Al Leiter. Al, of course, now pitching for the New York Yankees, and Jim, after a 25-year career over which he won 283 games. And I've got to tell you folks that I had one of the more memorable experiences of my life when 2 years ago, Kitty invited me to his house with Sandy Koufax, Bill White, and Bob Gibson. The 5 of us there. And the wine was flowing, and the stories were flowing. And I'm telling you, it's one of the great experiences that I've ever had, particularly with Koufax, a man that you started against 2 times in 1965.
Well, of course, Al has become very friendly with Sandy, and and it's been a treat for me after having faced him in '65 to, to be able to call him a friend. That was a real thrilling experience for me that night as well. I wish it could have gone all night. But, when I first saw Sandy, they were getting ready to start Game 2 of the World Series. In those days, there was one game on TV on Saturday, Pee Wee and Diz, Pee Wee Reese, Dizzy Dean. So I never saw Koufax pitch in person. I never saw him in spring training. And now the bullpen in Minnesota, we're not too much farther apart.
This is Bloomington, right?
Yes, than you and I are. And it's cold and it's raw. My eyes are watering because he's got that capsuline all over his back. And, and he's... And I'm, and we start the game, and they didn't have as good a hitting team as we did. And we get, I think, through the top of the 3rd. I came in and sat down next to Johnny Sain, our pitching coach. I said, John, if I give up a run, this game's over. I said, there's nobody can hit this guy. Where'd he come from? I mean, he looked so superior to any, you talk about a combination of power and control and, fluid motion. And if you see pictures of Sandy, when he had that arm, I mean, it was almost like his fingertips would hit the ground.
It was almost like a Michelangelo from pitching. I'm sure he's conveyed a lot of that pitching technique to you, Al.
Which earlier we were talking about, I think right before the break, about inside and outside. And that's one thing. Sandy, I have become friendly with him. It's an honor and something that I cherish because of how private he is and how he embraced me. And he's a wonderful man, as you both know. But messages he would call, after a game, he was watching, from afar, he's watching. That away, next time when you got the outside corner, nail it, and he'll hang up. Stuff like that to reinforce what you're saying. But quickly, the style, we all have different styles. You had a style, I have a style, Randy Johnson, Roger Clemens. To transform a style later in your career as a result of not having as good a stuff is difficult to do. which is the demise of a career, and that's why you retire and you go home because they tell you can't do it. But for just to say, well, geez, throw it outside more, you know, get it on the outside corner. Arm angle, I've done this for years, and it's hard to stay inverted, keep your thumb underneath the ball, and, you know, get carry through the outside part of the plate. Because of, as a result of my success, and not just talking about me, but whoever it is, based on their success, it's always been inside, 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 and now, you know, I have to do something else.
That's probably...
So it's not as easy to just say, well, geez, you know, throw more outside. You know,
it's an adjustment because of the way you release the ball that you found very difficult to make at this particular time.
It's probably...
My ball always cuts.
Right, and I think probably the worst slogan for pitchers over the last 20 years has been, boy, he can pitch inside. You got to pitch inside. And if you ask Koufax and Gibson, you throw inside, you pitch outside. And what left-hand pitchers had when they were younger, and you could do the same thing. I mean, I kind of reinvented my motion when I was 36 years old, but if you start...
How'd you do that, Jim?
With Johnny Sain, when he said, you know...
with the quick pitch when you went to the White Sox.
Yeah, I said, you know, my arm's fine, but I got no life. So he said, let's speed up the motion.
Because I just want to get to this, because this is something that, it doesn't bother me in the sense that I'm upset by it, but I think we cannot compare generations. And I think I said it on the air with you and Joe during the ALCS about, you know, I think Roger Clemens, as a result of all of the rule changes, not one has benefited the pitcher since 1968. None of them.
That's correct.
No question.
Quez-Tech, the stadiums, guys are stronger, et cetera,
Height of the mound.
Height of the mound. But it's a different time. And Kitty and even Sandy and whoever these guys, Bob Gibson would get thrown out in the first inning. Hitters are protected. They had these elbow pads. That bothers me.
Right.
They get in there and they all dive. Frank Thomas was probably about one of the first ones. You throw that ball, if it wasn't off the plate, he was smoking it.
Barry Bonds.
All of them.
All of them.
And they have this big pad. It's supposedly a medical issue. It's wrong. It's a shield. They get in there. There we go. Ichiro right there. Little Ichiro's got one.
Yeah.
A-Rod, my teammate. So then they're... All right, I'm defensive as a result of it. But when you say you have to pitch away and show in or whichever, I agree with that. You know, if you don't have enough, it's danger zone. Mr. Happy, inner half. But it's different.
Hold that thought. It's a danger zone for us because we got to go to commercial and hear from Pay Some Bills, and we'll be right back with Al Leiter and Jim Kaat.
Elegant hotel accommodations for Chevrolet's Tim McCarver Show are provided by the Kimberly Hotel, offering spacious suites plus true hospitality in the heart of Midtown Manhattan's East Side. When you choose New York, choose a suite at the Kimberly.
Introducing the all-new 2007 Chevy Tahoe with available features like a power remote liftgate, power release fold and tumble second row seats, and rear view camera system. Chevy Tahoe, an American revolution.
Let's face it, appearances count. That's why so many men and women searching for effective solutions to hair loss come to Hair Surgery Specialist Northwest. Dr. Marla Ross and her staff are the most experienced and respected team in Portland. We're not a franchise. You'll speak to a surgeon, not a salesman. Our touch is personal and caring, assuring you a positive result today and in the future. It's the natural choice. You'll like what you see. Hair Surgery Specialist Northwest. Get online or call us today for your free consultation.
Chevy builds the most dependable, longest-lasting trucks on the road. From compact pickups to full-size SUVs. Find out more. Go to Edmunds.com and click head-to-head. Chevy, an American revolution. Chevy Silverado has more standard payload and towing capacity than Ford F-150. And now Silverado starts over $2,000 less than Ford F-150. Chevy, America's #1 brand, America's #1 value.
America's #1 brand. More Americans choose Chevy than any other brand.
One of the things that's missing in Major League clubhouses, and I hope you agree with it out there, is you don't get a lot of this, of the talking. We used to do this all the time over a couple of beers or stuff. Talk about the game. Talk about how you're pitching, as you were saying, Al.
No, I don't know.
No, that's good.
I get hopped up on it because the game has evolved, which is good. You know, and it's going to continue to evolve. And the next generation of players, they're going to have some other little nuance that I think.
But explain the stuff you were talking about during the break about Quest Tech. It's fascinating.
Well, the Quest Tech was brought in so that the Eric Greggs of the world, who is no longer umpiring, doesn't have the last pitch of a Game 5 of NLCS for Levon Hernandez to get strike 3 on Freddie McGriff. That was that far outside.
Like he did in 1997.
1997 with the Marlins against the Braves. But as a result of that, the plate has now been purposely pulled in with this Quest Tech thing, which is only in 10 stadiums. And umpires now, it doesn't behoove them to call as many strikes as a result of the criterion. I don't want to get too technical, but they're given 2-inch leeway off the plate, which is the width of a baseball, that if they were to call it a strike, it is considered an acceptable and it doesn't go toward their correct and incorrect. And they have to be at a percentage of 90% of correct calls in order for them to be considered for All-Star and postseason, and they have families and they have livelihoods and extra money and all that. So, you know, the plate is what it is, but it's a little narrower. You're doing away with guys like Jim Kaat and Tommy John and you know, Tom Glavins and, you know, people who were under the speed limit, if you will, because you got to be on the plate more. No, because good for you. Good for you. Yeah. But it's much more difficult. As a result of this, you're basically training clubs to scout big guys that can throw, you know, 95 plus to be able to make mistakes on the plate more often.
You can almost make a case for the fact that Glavin and Maddox were responsible for Quest Tech and responsible for Sandy Alderson.
But the thing that, and I talked to Sandy Alderson a couple of years ago about this, and I think that what could get this back in order for the pitchers and could make the low pitch effective again, is at one time there were 1,000 pitches, we'll say, that were borderline, that were right about knee high. And of those 1,000, I would say 90% of them were strikes that were called balls. And that's the pitch that's missed more than ever. If you see a side angle of a hitter and the catcher will catch the ball down there and it'll be a ball, but when you see it, it comes across that front knee.
It's the most miscalled pitch in the game. I agree with that.
If you started calling that pitch, and then to me the best 2 zones to start pitching hitters when you get ahead are, don't worry about 3 inches off the plate or 3 inches here, but if you have that box between the knees and the shoe tops and up here over the plate, you know, as a hitter, you can look outside and check. You can look inside. But if it's here or there and it looks like a strike, you get a lot more swings at it. And I think by beginning to call the legitimate low strike consistently, you'd be able to get the pitchers where they could throw the ball down, and even if Frank Thomas dove after it, you'd have a chance to get a ground ball.
I'm with you on that, and I don't want to just bore us here with this, but watch how many games, whoever is into this baseball stuff, how many times that as Tim McCarver, the catcher, where the catcher will set up, he wants it about low thigh high, and he catches it at his mass, and ball. Umpires continue to credit hitters for not pitching, swinging at pitches they should drive. You watch a ball game. You got the pitch right there. And I actually had a tape that was given to Sandy Alderson of many pitches that were the little above the belt. Plate coverage, too, because this is what a hitter will tell you. If I could cover it, I'm okay with that. Now, then you say, well, we don't want to live upstairs. You're right, especially at 88.
Well, higher than high.
Higher than high. Call more. You call more of those. Hitters call it. Say it. You know what? If I could cover it and I know he's going to call it, I can hit that. How many times have you seen, Timmy, where you watch a game and the guy will end up, you know, either that's a ball and then this pitch here.
That's not a high pitch. A high pitch is right here.
Yeah.
Up here is out of the zone.
Yes. Yeah. But there are many guys that can also waffle that ball and hit it really far.
Hold it right there. We're going to go to Chevrolet. We'll be right back. Jim Kaat and Al Leiter right after this.
For more information about Chevrolet's Tim McCarver Show, go to www.timmccarver.com. Send your questions for Tim to info@timmccarver.com. A round of golf, a lifetime of memories.
simple. One family, one vehicle. The all-new 2007 Chevy Suburban. Every big family will want one. Suburban, an American revolution.
February 28th, get $2,000 in total savings on the Legacy Special Edition.
Thinking about buying or selling a home? Trust Windermere to give you great professional service. With Windermere, buyers can explore entire neighborhoods online or in person with an expert agent. Sellers, you can rely on Windermere's 30 years of local experience to help sell your home at the best price quickly.
Find out more about Windermere. Go to the yellow box at KATU.com and type in New Home Portland.
More Americans choose Chevy than any other brand. From cars to trucks to SUVs. Find out why. Go to Edmunds.com and click head-to-head. Chevy, an American revolution. The all-new Chevy Impala has a 211 horsepower V6 standard, and Impala now starts over $2,300 less than Camry LE V6. Chevy, America's #1 brand, America's #1 value.
America's #1 brand. More Americans choose Chevy than any other brand.
I'm with Al Leiter, pitcher for the New York Yankees, and Jim Kaat, who is a Yankee broadcaster, and once said, if you were to quit, there'd be 5,000 people ready for your job. You weren't talking about a show like this, don't worry. But what a great opportunity that you and I have had, and Al, you too, with your experience in the postseason the last couple of years, to have a chance to look at the game from a different vantage point and look at it from up high. And the game does look easier from upstairs.
Oh, no question. And I have a lot of people to thank, you being one of them. In my early days, you know, we used to sit on the bench in Philadelphia, and you were preparing to be a broadcaster. Then I got a chance to work with Dick Enberg and then Dick Stockton. And, of course, the Yankee gig I've had,
You've worked with Bill White?
Right, Bill White and Scooter. But I'm really grateful to Tony Kubek, because when Tony retired, he kind of recommended that they hire me. And, like, I can't imagine what it would be like having to do games for a team like Kansas City. Because in New York, every day there's an urgency to win. And I wanted to kind of dovetail along what we were talking about before the break. I want people to know that today it is tougher to pitch, in my opinion, than ever before. So I would never want to come across as an old-time pitcher. Wow, this is the way we used to do it. It was easier. I think Quest Tech, the size of the strike zone, the fact that they lower the mound, they give the hitters the armor, they've got lighter bats that, you know, if Mickey Mantle could have swung a 30-ounce bat, who knows what would have happened. And I think to equalize that, if they would go back to making the line of the batter's box 6 inches inside, give the pitchers that area to pitch in, take away the body armor, and make the strike zone legitimate from top to bottom, I think that'd give the pitcher a little fair chance.
And perhaps raise the mound at the same time?
Yes, yeah, raise that mound back up.
It went from 15 inches to 10 inches after the 1968 season when Gibson had the 1.12 ERA, Marichal 1.26, Koufax had since retired, but another reason that you suggest that Roger Clemens
and
perhaps is the greatest pitcher ever.
Do away with the DH, and every fourth batter has to go up with a blindfold.
Well, do away with the DH, Aggie. Plus, you know, that I think we talked about this at one time, Timmy. The slope, by raising the mound, this might be a stretch, but I think it would eliminate some arm injuries. I think it's
I do too.
You know, the pitching motion is gravity. It's not like you're pushing off as much as if you have a 15-inch mound, you're falling. A guy like Randy Johnson at 6'10" can really use that to his advantage, and it might minimize a lot of back problems and a lot of arm problems.
Well, when you think about it, what they're asking pitchers to do now is to keep the ball down the same way from a flatter surface.
Right.
Well, it would make sense if you raise the surface, you're coming down easier on the shoulder, easier on the elbow, easier on everything.
You were talking about the slope. In many cases, the height of the mound is important. Obviously, if I'm up further, I could come down on you harder, but it's the slope for me that is very important. And every foot, it's an inch.
I think it's an inch for every 6 feet, and they're saying during the break...
every foot.
Teams used to be able to doctor the mound, and when they knew the league was coming in, some teams would raise the plate. So when you measured the slope, they would say, well, this looks legitimate, and then when they'd leave town, you put the plate back down, and you haven't tinkered with the mound, but now you've got your good slope back. And like you said, that's what a pitcher wants, is that slope.
And Dodger Stadium has always been suspect. Since they lowered the mound, no pitcher has complained about Dodger Stadium, but your remark was interesting about the spike marks even in the 8th inning.
I got to pitch there because the Angels played in Dodger Stadium before the Big A was built in 1966. And when I got on that mound, and you know, then the damp air, guys weren't hitting the ball out of the ballpark like they are today. In the 8th inning, you could still see your individual spike marks, which was important to a pitcher because when you put that foot down, it's like you're gripping the mound. Yeah, I was a fastball curveball pitcher. I don't think I ever pitched a game in Dodger Stadium that I didn't feel good about my curveball. A lot of that was because of the mound.
We've got to take a quick break, and we'll be back with Al Leiter and Jim Kaat right after this.
Infused with sophistication and refinement, the Bull and Bear is the only New York City restaurant to serve prime-grade certified Angus beef, the highest quality of U.S. beef. For reservations, please call 212-872-4900.
Chevy builds the most dependable, longest-lasting trucks on the road. From compact pickups to full-size SUVs. Find out more. Go to Edmunds.com and click head-to-head. Chevy, an American revolution. Chevy Silverado has more standard payload and towing capacity than Ford F-150. And now, Silverado starts over $2,000 less than Ford F-150. Chevy, America's #1 brand, America's #1 value.
Know anybody like our little friend here? Who ticks, twitches, makes strange sounds, who just can't seem to stay still? You may know someone, a kid or a grown-up, with Tourette syndrome, a neurological disorder that's often misunderstood and a lot more common than you think. People with TS can't help it.
Can't help it.
But you can by calling the Tourette Syndrome Association for the facts at 1-888-4-TOURETTE.
1-888-4-TOURETTE.
Go beyond the Carrier stores and save money, too, at Car Toys. New activations, upgrades, family plans, prepaid phones. We can do anything the Carrier stores do, plus save you money. For a limited time at Car Toys, a Verizon Wireless authorized agent, get this cool camera and speaker phone with picture messaging for free. Plus up to 4 additional color screen phones, also free. Additional lines, only $9.99 each. Everybody goes home happy.
Car Toys, a better way to go.
I'm back with Jim Kaat and Al Leiter, and guys, I haven't done this in a long time, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate your candor, and I wish you well.
About this talk, you mentioned about the baseball talk with the beers. We got Chevrolet coffee mugs.
Well, that's true, coffee mugs with water. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. See you next time.